am a communication specialist and a conservation storyteller. I've worked on a film in the past as a producer, and so I'll talk a little bit about my current work that I'm doing now on the California Wolf Project, but also dig into my past projects and kind of how I got there and a little bit about my career path as well. Um, so the California Wolf Project is a research initiative that started last year. It's a initiative led by Dr. Arthur Middleton and Dr. Brashares out of Berkeley Wildlife. And basically, the project aims to advance the science and management of wolves in California. And a little bit of background on that. Wolves naturally recolonized into California after about a 100-year absence. And so this process started around 2011. And since then, the population has expanded to now 8 confirmed packs across the state. And so we work really closely with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife as one of our principal partners. But basically what our team is trying to do is trying to establish crucial research baselines for both wolf ecology and also wolf-human interactions on a shared landscape. Because while having wolves in the state, again, is really exciting, it does pose some interesting questions and challenges in terms of management. So that's why I think our project is super crucial and important, because we are elevating all of these different collaborations and trying to find new solutions for wolf recovery in the state. And so, like many large carnivores, they have a really dynamic role in the ecosystem, but they also have a complex relationship with humans as well. And so for my job as the communications manager, I use a lot of different tools, particularly with storytelling and outreach, to kind of elevate what we're doing and highlight the research that our team is doing and really advance our impact. And so there's really a ton of different tools you can use for storytelling. I've listed a few here, but there's an endless list. It's really all about how creative you want to get. But the ones that I use the most often in the work that I do is photography, film, journalism, interviews. And again, all that to highlight the research that's being done and to translate the science to a diverse audience. And one of the important things that I'm working on currently is trying to amplify diverse voices who are a part of the story of wolf recovery in California, particularly with those who live with wolves, because we think that we find a lot of value in sharing these honest perspectives and stories of those who deal with wolves on the day-to-day basis where they live. And so educating the public on the research, those stories, and then also foster better collaboration with NGOs, tribes, management agencies, and then all this to hopefully better inform science-based management decisions. That's the end goal here. And so beyond just the storytelling with film and photography, a lot of the work that I do is in my home office, designing kind of outreach materials that can better, again, translate the science. And so I've learned how to do everything from website design to newsletter outreach. And then, I was actually at a stakeholder meeting last night. I was at a fish and game meeting with 2 of my other colleagues on the project. And then also organizing tabling events within communities where wolves occur. And then anything from reports, flyers, social media, you name it, I've kind of had to dip my toes in for this project, and which always is really exciting because I get to kind of learn every aspect of the project and really strategize from every angle. But jumping a little bit backwards now, to kind of how I got to this project and a little bit of my past experience that led me here. For the last 7 years before I moved to California, I worked on a project called Path of the Panther, and it was part of a much larger campaign to establish and protect a statewide wildlife corridor. And so this project, it encompassed a National Geographic full-length film that came out in 2021, and then also a magazine story that came out in 2020. Um, but on this project, I worked, again, wearing many different hats. I worked as a wildlife camera trapper and a field manager, then into a producer on the film, and then into assisting on the impact campaign, which was included kind of scheduling community screenings, and really getting the film out there to as many people as possible. But ultimately, my favorite part was really the wildlife camera trapping. And, I have so many really fond memories of working in like the remote Everglades and getting these really intimate experiences with wildlife. So that was really a lot of fun. But ultimately, sharing the film with Florida legislators was the end goal because we were able to show real perspectives from all different points of views of conservationists, biologists, cattle ranchers, all these people who found common ground with the Florida panther, and everyone had similar reasons for wanting to not just protect the panther, but protect the habitat that preserves natural resources for Floridians as well. And so the Panther film was not only able to show legislators that the panther was worth protecting, but it was able to show them that they were using a corridor that benefits humans as well and our livelihood as well. And I wanted to give this one example showing this particular camera trap image because it was also a way to advance science and inform science by documenting the first breeding female panther north of the Caloosahatchee River, which is since 1973, it was the northernmost breeding point. So it was official documentation of the species actually expanding its range. So another good example of how storytelling can inform science and elevate the work that scientists are doing. And now continuing to jump back a little bit, I originally got my Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Studies and a minor in biology from Florida State University. And how I kind of navigated to this point was when I was in my undergrad, I volunteered a lot with the environmental club on campus. And so I dipped my toes into every little experience I could find, anything ranging from tagging monarch butterflies to different types of habitat restoration. I kind of tried everything to figure out what I liked the best because I really didn't know what I was going to use my degree for at the time. And what I realized is that through all of these volunteer experiences, the thing that excited me the most was actually documenting the work that the scientists were doing and then sharing it. And so that's kind of what steered me a little bit away from research and a little bit more into the communications and storytelling side. And so I went on to get my master's at University of Miami in a MPS program in exploration science. And I get a lot of questions about what exploration science is. And it's a really, really interdisciplinary program that they offer, but it focuses a lot on the applied practice of field research and using explorative approaches and technologies to answer science-based questions, but also discover creative new solutions and discover more about the planet in general. And it was a really fun program. I got to do a lot of cool things, but it led me to Path of the Panther by simply me asking a question in class one day. it turned out that my professor had previously worked with the National Geographic photographer who was spearheading Path of the Panther. And I got connected with him and did a 9-month internship in the Everglades and learned all the ins and outs of camera trapping and conservation strategies. And the rest is really history. A 9-month internship kind of turned into 7 years, and I never really left the swamp until I came here to California. But again, being in the field so much, I learned so much about animal behavior, how to track wildlife, and apply all of that into the photography and the film work that I was doing. At this point, I'm just sharing really cool photos because I think there is a common thread throughout my career path, which is I always kind of stayed true to my initial passion of the natural world and working in the environment. And again, telling the stories of scientists and the people who are on the ground doing the conservation work. And so, um, I want to end on that note and kind of leave you with this message of discover your passion and your unique skill set to chart your own path. I think it's really important to learn from our mentors and soak up as much information as we can and collaborate with others. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to discovering what unique skills you bring to the table and kind of charting your own path, because I think it is true to say that everyone's path into this field of whether it's science or wildlife conservation or whatnot, it's going to look different for everybody. And so again, I think staying true to what really excites you, and then figuring out how you can best work within that. And then I also want to provide here some links so you can access more information about any of the projects or programs that I've talked about. And Grace will have access to all of these slides and share that to you later on too. So I'd love to answer any questions that you guys might have on anything that I talked about. Oh, you're still muted.
Sorry, you couldn't hear all the applause. It was.
I saw some of it. Thank
you. Okay, we got a question over here. If you can. No, everything's going wrong. Hold on. Technical difficulties.
No worries.
There we go. It'll pop back up. I'm just gonna stop moving it. It'll just be on me, but I'll relay the questions to you. Yeah.
So on a daily basis, I usually watch this channel called TEDx, which is a channel by TED. I was wondering if you ever worked with them, because part of their goal is spreading education through entertainment, through like animation.
Okay, did you hear that by any chance?
I heard part of it. I heard, have you ever worked with so-and-so with animation?
TEDx, right? Yeah, TEDx.
No, I have not. No,
yeah.
But I would love to.
I was wondering, like, if you ever worked on like any YouTube channels or entertainment channels alongside National Geographic.
Yeah, question is if you've ever worked alongside any channels or anything like alongside National Geographic.
Yes. So in addition to Nat Geo, I've worked with Disney to develop educational tools and education curriculum that was associated with the Panther film. I've also worked with crews from BBC and who else? Honestly, most of my work has been with Nat Geo funded projects, so a lot of teams from Nat Geo, but there was the photo I had of me holding the Crocs. That was actually for a series for Nat Geo, but was with a crew from BBC. So a lot of it all kind of intertwines, and you do kind of start to discover that it's a much smaller world, and you start to see similar faces working on projects all over. So
That's cool. Yeah.
What would you say was the most influential thing or things you learned while on the Panther project?
Yeah. So,
I heard that one.
okay, perfect.
Most influential. It's really hard, but honestly, I would say working with the ranchers, and that also included the tribes, because I worked a lot with the Seminole and Miccosukee tribe in Florida, and a lot of their livelihoods rely on cattle ranching as well. And so we would spend up to 2 weeks out of a time, like camped out on some of these ranches and go on cattle drives with them, not just to document the work that they were doing, but also just truly get to know them at a human level, because with any film project, there's a layer of kind of building trust with people you're working with. And so just really getting to know the humans who were part of this story, but particularly the ranchers, and hearing their kind of side of the story and how they were finding common ground with the Panther, because the biggest issue was land development, right? And so in Florida, land development is so rapid. Like, I would drive to some of my field sites, and the following week there'd be a patch of pine flatwoods that are already gone. And so it happens so fast. But these cattle ranchers are kind of the unsung heroes of habitat conservation down there, because with the Florida Wildlife Corridor, they are providing some of these essential linkages within that corridor that bears, panthers, all kinds of wildlife are using. And so I think it was really inspiring and influential to hear kind of just an unlikely person who you wouldn't think would be so passionate about protecting an apex predator who's a cattle rancher, but they were able to find that common ground and realize that no, this animal could actually be an emblem that influences policies that ends up protecting not just my livelihood, but my neighbor's livelihood, and our cultural heritage too. So I found that really influential.
Now that in the future you'd like to work on?
Is there any project you know of right now that you'd like to kind of work on in the future? That was the question. Yeah.
Honestly, right now working on the Wolf Project is absolutely incredible, and I was reflecting on it today actually, because there was a interview that I did in 2023, and the interviewer asked me the same question, like, do you have a dream project you'd want to work on? And I literally said at the end, now that I've moved to Northern California, I would love to camera trap wolves, and I'd love to work with wolves. And so it's kind of crazy that only a few months after I said that, I was reached out to by Dr. Middleton to kind of explore conversations with this project. So honestly, working on the Wolf Project right now is a dream. And I am working closely with a recent Berkeley grad, Vishal, who is, we're going to be spearheading kind of the camera trap mission for this project together. And so that's going to be happening really soon. But every time I get to go out into the field and document the work that our field crew is doing, it really is a dream. So.
Yeah, that's so exciting. Vishal actually was a guest speaker a couple weeks ago too. Yeah.
Nice. I will add though, I would love to work with crocs again. They are one of my most favorite animals to kind of observe, and they were really challenging to camera trap, but I would love to go down to Panama, where my mom's side of the family is from, and I would love to do maybe something in Panama eventually, whether that's camera trapping crocs or jaguars or whatever.
Yeah, that's really cool. I would love that too. Yeah.
this might be kind of a dumb question, but there's a guy on the internet who walks around the Everglades looking for a 20-foot python.
Yeah.
And all your time working in the Everglades, if you ever find a 20-foot python.
Yeah. So the question was, I don't know if you've seen the guy that like walks in the Everglades barefoot, like puts videos on social media of he's just like walking through the Everglades barefoot and just yoinks up creatures that he sees in the Everglades. And the question was, have you ever seen a 20-foot python in your time in the Everglades?
I have not. I've not seen pythons while I was working because most of our field sites tracking the panthers was north of the Tamiami Trail, which is north of the national park. And I say that the pythons typically stay south within the boundaries of the national park, but they have been moving north for sure, and people have seen them much farther north than that. But I never ran into them when I was working, but I have seen them just visiting the national park for sure. But yeah, they're a serious issue down there. And there's, you know, a yearly python hunt and everything. But yeah, mostly the animals that I came in contact with all the time were alligators, bears. With the 7 years that I worked on the project, I had seen one panther that entire time with my eyes.
Wow. Yeah, I heard a similar story with someone studying snow leopards too. It's like when you're following these elusive predators, it's really hard to see them in person. But yeah, did anybody else have one? Yeah.
In the film, I don't know if you know much about it, but the filming process for the Panther Project, how were most of the like videos captured? Was it through like camera trapping or like they actually go out there with equipment?
Yeah, it was I don't know the percentage, but we definitely used both. So I primarily was the main camera trapper along with Carlton Ward, who was the Nat Geo photographer who started the project. But yeah, so all of the really like intimate wildlife footage that's in that film is all camera traps. But obviously throughout the film, there's a lot of handheld, and we worked with a film crew based out of Bozeman, Montana called Grizzly Creek Films. And they have a talented team of cinematographers who came down to film a lot of everything else that you see with the interviews. And but in terms of the wildlife, almost all of that is all camera trap stuff that we had out for years. We had roughly 24 cameras throughout the lower half of the state, and so my job would be kind of checking all of those cameras, and I would have like a loop that I did. I'd be like, this week I do this half, and then the next half I'll, you know, download all those videos and photos and then go service all the other ones. So it was kind of a never-ending service loop of camera traps.
Yeah, that's amazing. Anybody else have another question? If not, I have one. So I was thinking about that gap between when you were saying you were in the Everglades as an intern for 9 months, then that turned into a job opportunity for you, and then you from there got like how did going from working in the Everglades for research turn into the documentary side of things? Like, did someone reach out to you? Did you reach out to someone? How did that work?
Are you talking particularly with Path of Panther or the transition from the Panther Project to the Wolf Project?
You know, I'm curious about both, but I was talking about the Path to Panther.
Yeah. So the Path of the Panther Project was a storytelling project. It wasn't really, I mean, we did use the photography and film to kind of document what the biologists were studying, but it really was more of a conservation storytelling project. And so Carlton was documenting everything really about what was going on with panther recovery as a means to describe the need for its habitat preservation and the need for this corridor, because there really wasn't a way, and there's still not a way, for the panther to fully recover unless it has a fully protected corridor. And so that was the end goal, and using the panther as an example. And so when I first joined as an intern, it was mostly as a camera trap technician. So I was checking on the camera traps with Carlton, but then that's when it turned into a full-time job as the field manager. And Carlton was having to take all of these meetings in Tallahassee, in the Capitol, with legislators, and they were working on filming some of the other content for the documentary. And so my role was to really manage the camera traps all on my own. And I started, in addition to that, a volunteer program where I would bring students and really anyone that was interested out into the field with me. One, because I needed an extra set of hands too. I should have shared some other photos, but a lot of times I would have to carry like super heavy equipment or ladders through like 3 or 4 feet of water, and just all kinds of stuff. And so having an extra person there was always helpful. So I took out a lot of volunteers with me, but let's see. Yeah. And then once the majority of the filming was done for the documentary, that's when I kind of transitioned into like an impact campaign assistant. And I was helping my other colleague organize film screenings and community engagement. And then, bringing the film to Tallahassee, and then it became the whole campaign to get the corridor fully established. And then let's see, once that all wrapped up for Path of the Panther, which it's never really fully over. I still get emails for screenings every now and then. But yeah, once that wrapped up, I actually, I ended up getting married, and my husband and I decided we really wanted to travel. And so we built out a custom camper van all on our own, and then traveled in our van across the country for a year and a half or so. And I think we really had an intention of finding a place to live out west. We had previously lived in Oregon before the Panther Project, and I really always loved it out here and wanted to find a way to get back out here again. So once I left Florida and the Path of the Panther Project, I really didn't have any intention of going back. And we kind of just landed in Northern California, really love it here. And it was kind of serendipitous how I got connected with the Wolf Project. My colleague Tori, who worked on the Panther Project, had a meeting with Arthur on some other matter, and he was describing to her about the Wolf Project, and she was like, well, I know someone who just moved to Northern California who's a camera trapper. Like, seems like you guys should definitely connect. And then that's how that ball got rolling. So it's just another example of just networking and always kind of, I don't know, hearing out opportunities, because you never know where it's going to lead you, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, a great opportunity to get connected to Arthur Middleton too. But does another person have any questions? I have one more, and then I think we might get out a little early. But you said, to follow up on what you were saying about how you were treading through like 3 to 4 feet of water at times with these big, heavy equipment. How does field trapping, like camera trapping, work in the field where it's like covered in water, like it's very swampy?
Yeah. So it's a loaded question, but we had different techniques. So sometimes we will attach things to trees. Sometimes we'll have things on tall tripods that are above the water. And after a couple times of bears knocking over things and our cameras drowning, we finally learned that we need to strap them to things as, safety nets in case bears come. Because I think bears and cows are the number one thing that would destroy our cameras. It wasn't, I mean, we had things flood from hurricanes and stuff like that, but really it was the bears. Just, they're so curious and they just knock over whatever they see. But yeah, and other times we would have things hung really high in trees, pointed downwards to get angles of like bears scratching and marking on trees. There was all kinds of cool things that we had to just kind of like learn along the way. And camera trap technology has really evolved in like the last 10 years. I remember when I first started on the project in my internship, Carlton had all of these like handmade flash tubes out of PVC pipes, and the technology was really kind of just like primitive. He only had like a 2-part beam system that went across a trail, and now there's a company I like to work with called Cognisys, and all of their stuff is like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connected, and you can do all the settings from your phone, and everything just is like really simple. And I say simple, there's always stuff that goes wrong, of course, but it's advanced a lot over the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Can we do one more round of applause for Malia?